So it's official, Max Verstappen is staying at Red Bull for 2026, and on the surface, that sounds like the most predictable news of the season, right? But here's the thing, it wasn't guaranteed. In fact, he could have walked away. There was a very real chance he might have been in silver next year. But thanks to a little-known performance clause hidden in his contract, that door has slammed shut. Let's unpack this. For months, Verstappen was being linked to Mercedes. And those rumors weren't just speculation, they had real weight. Mercedes and Toto Wolff were actively exploring it. Verstappen, we now know, had a clause that could allow him to leave Red Bull for 2026. But only under one condition: if he dropped out of the top 3 in the Drivers' Championship by the summer break. That was the escape hatch, and for a moment, it actually looked possible. George Russell was close behind in points going into the Belgian Grand Prix, but then Max did what Max always does: he delivered under pressure. He grabbed extra points in the sprint, then followed it up with a solid 4th place finish in the main race. Meanwhile, Russell finished 5th. That widened the gap between them to 28 points, more than a full race win, and that was enough to lock Verstappen into the top 3 for the summer break. Just like that, the clause was off the table, and Mercedes out of luck. So now, even if Verstappen had been tempted to jump ship, maybe because of frustrations with Red Bull politics or interest in a new challenge, he legally can't go anywhere. Not unless Mercedes is willing to buy out his deal, and let's be real, that would be astronomically expensive. Plus, Red Bull has no interest in letting him go. Why would they? Now, some insiders are saying Max was always going to stay regardless. Maybe, but now it's a certainty. And for new Red Bull team boss Laurent Mekies, that's a huge win. He can go into the rest of the season without a looming crisis over his #1 driver. But now I've got to ask you, did you actually believe Verstappen might leave? Be honest, drop a yes or no in the comments. I want to know how many of you were buying into the Mercedes hype. And hey, if you want more updates like this before the mainstream even blinks, subscribe right now. Help us hit our goal of 1,000 subscribers and stay locked into every twist of silly season. Now that Verstappen's staying put, the ripple effect is already being felt, and no one's feeling more relieved than George Russell. For a while, his spot at Mercedes wasn't a guarantee. If Verstappen had become a free agent, Toto Wolff would have had a massive decision to make. But now, with Max off the market, Russell's path to a contract extension looks a whole lot smoother. Let's back it up for a second. Russell is out of contract at the end of the season. And sure, there've been talks behind the scenes to extend his deal, but he's always known that if Verstappen became available, the team might pivot. After all, when the best driver on the grid is even remotely available, every top team is going to pick up the phone. To Russell's credit, he's been classy about it. He acknowledged that Mercedes exploring other options was totally normal, even if that option happened to be Max Verstappen. And the truth is, Toto Wolff kept him in the loop the entire time. Russell knew about the conversations happening between Wolff and Verstappen's management, so there were no surprises, but the plot thickens with Kimi Antonelli. Mercedes' young hotshot was supposed to be the rising star, the one pressuring Russell for that seat. Except, things haven't gone to plan. Antonelli's had a rough stretch, including a spin in sprint qualifying at Spa that raised some eyebrows. The result, Mercedes may now be rethinking his trajectory. Instead of dropping Russell, there was actually talk of parking Antonelli at a different team, most likely Alpine, which becomes a Mercedes customer in 2026. That idea made a lot of sense. Alpine gets a talented young driver. Antonelli gets experience without the crushing pressure of racing for Mercedes, and Russell gets some breathing room. But with Verstappen now officially off limits, Mercedes can focus on locking in their 2026 lineup, most likely keeping both Russell and Antonelli. And honestly, that's probably the smartest move right now. But even if the duo is expected to return, here's where it gets interesting. What kind of contracts are they going to get? Don't expect Mercedes to go long-term just yet. With the 2026 regulation changes coming and Verstappen potentially back on the market in 2027, Wolff will want flexibility. That could mean a short-term or even year-by-year deal for Antonelli. And maybe a 1+1 contract for Russell, one guaranteed year with an option for the second. It's a clever way to keep options open. And Russell, he might actually like the idea. If Mercedes doesn't deliver a winning car under the new rules, being a free agent in 2027 could let him make a move to a more competitive seat. It's high risk, high reward, but that's how careers are made or broken in F1. So now I'm curious, should Mercedes commit to George Russell long term? Or should they play it safe and stay flexible for 2027? Let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying how we're breaking this all down, make sure you're subscribed. We're just getting started and silly season's only going to get wilder. So now that 2026 is mostly figured out, let's talk about the real prize, 2027. That's when things could completely blow open. Why? Because Verstappen may finally become a true free agent, and this time, for real. The key is another performance clause in his contract. It's similar to the one that just locked him in for 2026, but with even higher stakes. If Max isn't in the top 2 of the driver's standings by the summer break next season, he'll have the option to walk away from Red Bull in time for 2027. That's a much tighter window, and Red Bull knows it. Now imagine this. The new regulations drop in 2026, shaking up the pecking order. One team gets it right, another gets it wrong. And suddenly, someone like Mercedes, Aston Martin, or even McLaren finds themselves on top of the performance charts. Verstappen, ever focused on having the fastest car, will absolutely be paying attention. That's why 2027 is shaping up to be the year to make a move. Think about it, why would Max commit to another multi-year Red Bull extension before seeing how competitive their 2026 car really is? Jumping ship during a rule reset is a massive gamble. If you get it wrong, you're stuck with a midfield team and no easy way out. That's why he's sitting tight. It's smart, it's calculated. And it puts a ton of pressure on Red Bull to nail the next generation of cars. This isn't just about Max though. Other top drivers in slower cars will be eyeing 2027 as well. They'll want to get out of underperforming teams and into race-winning seats. That means the market is going to be absolutely packed. The competition will be fierce, and the teams? They're going to hold off on long-term deals just to keep space open in case someone like Verstappen becomes available. Even now, Mercedes is preparing for this. Russell may get a short extension. Antonelli could be kept on a rolling deal. Aston Martin? They're also lining up options, especially with Alonso's contract ending in 2026 and retirement likely on the horizon. And here's the wild card: Red Bull could crush it. They might build the best car of the new era, especially with their in-house engine project. If they do, Max might never want to leave. But if they miss the mark? If someone like Aston Martin nails the rules with Adrian Newey's influence and a new Honda power unit? That's the kind of situation Verstappen would jump at. He's not afraid to move, he just wants the fastest car. So here's a question for you. Which team do you think will get the 2026 regulations right? Is it Red Bull, Mercedes, or maybe even Aston Martin? Let me know in the comments, I'm reading all of them. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into the future of the grid, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. You'll be the first to know when the next wave of silly season chaos begins. Alright, so Verstappen's locked in for 2026, but what about his teammate? That second Red Bull seat is suddenly a big question mark, and it's causing plenty of speculation. Right now, Yuki Tsunoda's position feels shaky, and there's a rising star knocking on the door: Isaac Hayar. Yuki's had some tough months. After a promising start, confidence and consistency have been hard to come by. His qualifying form dipped, and race pace hasn't helped him close the gap to Verstappen. At Spa, he had a bit of a comeback moment qualifying 7th, the best of his Red Bull career so far, but it wasn't enough to erase a points drought that has stretched far too long. Plus, a late pit call error denied him what looked like a sure points finish. Red Bull fans and management want more, and that means pressure is mounting. Now, Isaac Hayar has been impressing behind the scenes. He's a Formula 2 race winner with speed and maturity that's caught the attention of the new Red Bull team principal Laurent Mekies. Mekies is someone who really knows how to nurture young talent. He's got a fresh approach compared to the old guard. And there's chatter that Helmut Marko's influence has waned a bit since Christian Horner's shift, meaning fresh voices like Mekies could steer driver decisions more than ever. If Tsunoda can't find his rhythm soon, promoting Hayar and bringing in Arvid Lindblad for a debut seems like a logical next step. Red Bull doesn't shy away from giving young drivers a shot when the time is right. But that also means Yuki's got to step up now if he wants to keep his seat. The team did upgrade Tsunoda's car mid-season with floor-spec parts closer to Verstappen's, which should help, and Mekies has been clear he wants to give Yuki every chance to prove himself. The pressure's on, though. Red Bull needs both cars to score if they want to stay competitive. So here's a question for you. Would you roll the dice on Hayar for 2026, or stick with Tsunoda and hope he finds his form? Type Hayar or Tsunoda in the comments. I'm eager to see what the community thinks. And if you're staying with us, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. This channel is your go-to for the latest, most reliable F1 news and analysis. So, looking ahead to 2027, Max Verstappen could be the biggest name on the free agent market. That performance clause kicking in next year means if he's outside the top 2 by summer, he'll have the option to walk away from Red Bull. It's a tough target, but it puts some serious pressure on both Verstappen and the team to deliver results. Laurent Mekies has said that Red Bull's goal is to build the fastest car possible to keep Max happy long-term. And let's be honest, the team knows how valuable Verstappen is not just as a driver, but as a brand and a title contender. Losing him would be a massive blow. But the reality is, if Red Bull stumbles and another team nails the new regulations, you can bet rivals like Mercedes or Aston Martin will be waiting with open arms. Aston Martin is especially interesting. They're switching to Honda power and could have a seat open after Fernando Alonso likely retires at the end of 2026. Both Verstappen and George Russell would be prime targets. From Verstappen's perspective, it's all about the car and the championship chances. He said repeatedly this season that the priority is having the quickest car, and that's what will dictate his future decisions. A multi-year deal before the 2026 season even starts would be risky because nobody really knows who will come out on top under the new rules. So here's the big question for you. If you were Max Verstappen, would you stay loyal to Red Bull or test the waters and switch teams in 2027? Think about it and drop your answer in the comments. And before we wrap up, if you've been enjoying this deep dive into Verstappen's locked-in future and the bigger F1 landscape, make sure you hit subscribe and ring that notification bell. We've got plenty more F1 insights coming your way. Thanks for sticking with me through all the twists and turns. What do you want to see covered next? Let me know below.